rent media, sent it to ba 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 ba. Penny rent media, sunny nani nami here. Penny rent media, penny rent media, penny rent media. Penny rent, oh yeah, penny rent, you got this rent. Penny rent, oh, penny rent, no. Penny rent, oh yeah, penny rent. Oh, penny rent, oh, penny rent, oh, penny rent, yeah, penny rent. Oh, penny rent, yeah, penny rent. Penny rent can do it. Penny rent, yeah, she can.
Oh, it's so low. Let's see. All right. Okay, now I turned it down, so it should be fine. Hi, I'm Penny Wren, and I'm live streaming today because I've just announced that I'm going to be doing a 24-hour live stream, and it is 101 free ideas for America. So bear with me because I am simultaneously listening to myself because I have a really bad habit of not having my audio on whenever I'm live streaming, and I'm not all plugged up to the audio and mics and everything like I usually am. My husband, Brian, is responsible for all of that, and he's not here right now. So I jerry-rigged the best setup that I could. So I realized that I've been kind of jumping in without really telling anyone about myself. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I was raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia, to Spelman College. I lived in New York where I worked in magazines for a little bit over 15 years. I worked as an editor and a writer for magazines that you've probably heard of, including Glamour, Redbook, Oh the Oprah Magazine, Essence. I got my start as an intern at Ms. Magazine. That's the magazine with Gloria Steinem. And I moved back to my hometown in Lancaster around 2015, 2016, and that led to a pivot, a career pivot. I love a good pivot. Working in content marketing and search engine marketing. I was responsible for helping others, individuals and institutions, fix or develop their online presence. I was laid off at the beginning of the pandemic, April 2020, And that really set me on a hell of a trajectory. My father was living at the time, Curtis Lee Wren Sr., and I was already working as a supplemental caregiver for him, going back and forth driving from Lancaster, Pennsylvania to where he lived in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. So when I got laid off at the beginning of the pandemic, I was honestly grateful because it gave me more time to be with my dad. And like so many, I was very grateful and fortunate to be, a recipient of unemployment and to not, feel like I was completely lost and adrift. My father died about a year and a half later in September 2021. And at that time, I don't know however old I was, I think it was like 45, 46. I'm 49 now. I realized that this circumstance, this life phase that I was in at the time and that I think of myself as still being in, that phase called midlife, that it became in that moment. He died at age 91 in September 2021, and I was about 45, 46. And that was an exact midway point between with birth and his lifespan. So I was half the age that my father was when he died. And it really freed up some creative problem solving for me. I've growing up in magazines, I was always reverse engineering ideas, story ideas. I used to pitch ideas all the time to different editors. So I would routinely say, there's a story idea there. There's a story idea there. And I think in story ideas. And it was as if I immediately thought about the story idea that was when midlife became a quantitative metric and not just some qualitative ambiguity. And soon after that, about a year and a couple months later, a little thing that known as ChatGPT came out, and that was November 2022. And I was an early adopter. I started using ChatGPT in November, December. I remember my first actual evidence that I was using ChatGPT is a text message that I sent to my niece, Kylie, who is now 18 and is on her way to Spelman College, and who was then, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. I'm so bad with numbers. And I sent her a text message and I said, she was in high school. I said, has anyone been talking about ChatGPT at your school? Do you guys have any policies? Because I'm listening to articles, I'm listening to news podcasts that are talking about this new thing. And I didn't realize that, I just was consuming so much media at the time. And I didn't realize that the adoption was a lot slower. Even now, if you think about it, the adoption is still growing. I like to say that we're missing the participation layer of the AI economy because, we talk about the models every day. We talk about the companies who make the models every day. We talk about the software developers who are using the models to code or not to code. But we don't talk a lot about the everyday humans who are deploying and employing this technology in ways that serve them. And to be honest with you, I understand the reluctance, especially considering that in the first iteration of the internet economy, which is, think of the startups of the 2000s. When you think about when they came on the scene, they really didn't have business models, like profitable revenue generating business models. So when they came to market, especially when they started IPOing, offering their initial public offering on the stock market and became public companies, you saw a lot more of the attention economy, as we call it, ramping up, where we became the product. We had access to all of these free platforms like the one we're listening to now, YouTube, or Facebook or Instagram, etc. But we're sucked in, right? And we're the ones creating literally the platforms, but we don't own anything that we create. On top of which, our attention is completely gamified as if we were playing a slot machine every day, to keep us hooked and, pulling the lever. So the more I started using ChatGPT, because at the time and I still am, I was looking for a job. I have a non-traditional career trajectory. And I realized that, all of the advice that people tell you about applying for a job, like you need to have a customized resume and a customized cover letter for every job. When you have a non-traditional career, you're applying for seeming like 10 to 15 job titles maybe a day. So before ChatGPT, I was honestly crying. I was just collapsing into tears on a daily basis because of that hurdle. It was just such a hurdle to try to apply for jobs the right way. So I started leveraging ChatGPT to help me customize a lot of my resumes and cover letters. And again, this is before all of the AI detection hoopla and that stuff. And I did end up getting a couple of clients, a couple of gigs, and was starting to get back into the workforce around that time. I ended up working full time for a nonprofit school that serves exclusively young people who are in the foster care system in Philadelphia. I worked as a digital literacy instructor at a Montessori school in Philadelphia. I worked as a business development consultant with a startup caregiver organization in Philadelphia. And, spoiler alert, soon after ChatGPT came out, about a year later, I moved to Philadelphia. I was living with my now husband. We were living together in Reading at his childhood home. So when ChatGPT came out, I'm at the intersection of, oh shoot, midlife is more than a moment, right? It's a metric. And also thinking about my father's lifespan, how he lived, because, my relationship with my father, my closeness with my father, he was an old dad. So I'm more familiar with him from his 80s onward, maybe 70s onward, than I am really he was in his late 40s when he had me. And while I remember his younger self was basically me now. And in being laid off, I was also introduced to just the employment law landscape and understanding how to negotiate your severance, how to make sure that the terms of a layoff are, following different best practices for reductions in force. And you get really clued in to kind of how fast and loose a lot of private employers play with some of their responsibilities and some of what we see as our rights, even in an at-will state. You've heard of employment at will. And lo and behold, my father had been voicing some of these frustrations when he was around my age in the 80s. So if you look him up, if you Google him, Curtis Wren, Wrenn, and you Google cases like Wren versus Benson or Curtis Wren, EEOC, even if you look up Curtis Wren and Thurgood Marshall, you will see search results. My father petitioned the Supreme Court to be a pro se litigant and so that he could continue fighting an employment discrimination decision from the EEOC. I think I'm tracking that correctly. And a pro se plaintiff litigant is someone who represents themselves. And so, sorry, he wasn't petitioning to be pro se. He was petitioning to be impauperous. I think I'm saying that correctly, meaning like you want to pursue the case as a pauper so that you don't have to pay all of the fees that are attached to filing, your legal briefs and everything as you're pursuing a case. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court decided against him. The rationale, if memory serves me correctly, was that he and his wife was employed, and she, they remained married until his death. His wife was employed, had a full-time job, and they were living off of her salary, I think. And also they owned their home. And as a result, they then couldn't say that he was a pauper because he owned a home and his wife had a salary. When I think about that now, it's as if the Supreme Court was saying, no, you have to be really poor, like dirt poor, like you don't have access to anything poor. In which case, if you're dirt poor, you don't have access to anything poor, where are you even getting the resources necessary to even request anything from the court? That's what, again, this is me anecdotally talking about it. That's what it seemed like. And I think that's what it felt like to him. So much so that my memories of my father are doing legal cases, like just files and files on the floor all around him. And, filing this and exhibit A and this and that. So much so that in his later years, he would get mail, advertising mail from representatives, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama still sent mail even after he had left office. And, he would request photocopies. He would request dictation of letters in response to mail that he had received about when Social Security is going to run out. And if you, Curtis Wren, want to make sure Social Security doesn't run out, make sure you send this form back. But he wouldn't just send the form back. He also wanted to write a letter. And he just had this mind that was always collecting, curating information. I have 6 biological siblings, and the second oldest girl, my sister Corliss, was named in his will, or was identified in his wishes, spoken and written, as being the steward, the custodian of the historical documents. My sister from another mister, Dr. Shalise Furman, and we had this joke, like, who knew that like historical documents are a thing? We talk about like historical documents now. When her father died, we went through his historical documents, and I am grateful to my father for relaying that level of confidence about one's personal effects, just what makes up a life, and documents, material, written word, handwritten word, that makes up a lot of a life for some of us. And I know that's the case for me. So, because I've always kind of thought as a editorial, curator, always collecting ideas, even if I wasn't always pitching them, I always had a journal. I've always had the notes app open on my phone. I've always collected voice memos. If you know me, you are used to my routinely saying, wait, let me add in tape a call. And you might have heard me say more than one time, caller, are you there? When I plug in the Tape a Call app to record our conversation. I've recorded conversations with my father. I've recorded conversations with my mother, Evelyn Wren, founder of the Church of Evelyn Wren, whose maternal wisdom is a guiding force, not only in my life, but I share it truly as gospel to other people, other women who I know, who are working mothers especially, and who have a finished product, an ROI in mind when they're raising their children. My mother talked to me about my being a return on her investment, her time, her talent. and her prayers from an early age. I remember those conversations from when I was in high school. So I, I, I just, memory has just always been something I've wanted to document. And when ChatGPT came out in 2022, that's what I found myself doing. And my memories started colliding with media narratives, trends, and through lines more and more because you might have called it an addict. I have something in my ear all day long. I don't listen to audiobooks, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And the more I was consuming media and kind of curating my tastes, the more I heard myself angrily talking back or just passionately talking back to the hosts of the TV shows. I remember of the audio shows. There is a podcast called Pivot, hosted by Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. And boy, oh boy, that was one that could really get me riled up. I am a huge fan of Scott Galloway, and I mean huge fan of Scott Galloway. So much so that when his book, The Algorithm of Wealth, came out, and I remember like turning it on to listen to it while I was on my morning constitutional. And when I tell you, I wasn't even in 5 pages to the first chapter, and I had to stop it, and I cried because there was this line where he clearly conveyed that I was not the reader he had in mind. He had made I'll have to find it at some point, but he made some comment about how, the book was for people 30, like around 35-ish or younger, people who were at a point in their careers where they were just gaining ground, they could make, X, Y, or Z types of decisions, that they had a lifespan ahead of them that was optimized on its face, on face value for earning more income. And you see, when that book came out, which was 3 years ago, I had already been told in 2019, 2018 by a wonderful friend of my mom's that I needed to hurry up and start, jumping income brackets because your 40s are your highest earning potential years. That's a thing that we should tell people from a younger age. You know what else we should tell people from a younger age? Like, we should legit tell people, hey, I'm not saying you have to get married. I'm not even asking you if you want to get married or what you think about marriage. But what I am telling you is this. If you believe you might want to be married, when you're around age, 29 through 36, 38, here are X, Y, and Z ways to, I keep using the word optimize, but like for real, I'm sorry, not for marriage. Back up. I don't mean that about marriage. I mean that about children. I think you can get married at any age. I just got married for the first time last year. Ooh, I said for the first time. I said for the first time. Oh, that's hilarious. For the first time. I said for the first time. I just got married for the only time last year. And so I'm putting that aside. I meant kids. I meant children. I don't know if I would have done anything differently, but I do think a lot about how we talk to people about having kids. And I wish that we talked about it a little less like, biological, clocky, like if you feel it or not. I had a friend who used to talk about how she felt the I want a baby pangs in her stomach, and I never felt that. But I feel like even in my 20s, definitely in my 30s, I could have totally tapped into the rationale of, well, as you age, you're going to want someone to help you or to support you or to, walk with you, or just to be a witness. You need a witness. And I feel like children can be such great witnesses in life as you advance. But I'm fortunate because I have kids, even though I don't have kids. I've got a slew of children who call me TT, who I love, and they're amazing. And I hope that one or more of them will be there. I mean, if you can't be there the day I give up the ghost, like sometime around, like if I can get in a good visit a week or two before I die, I would count me blessed. But if I get a hand holding, onto my hand when I transfer from one form of existence to the next, as my dad would call it, that would be a life that I would feel like has a chef's kiss cherry on top. But anyway, I'm rambling. So I was at the ChatGPT thing, the merging of the metric of versus a moment and midlife, the talking back passionately, angrily to podcasts, and more. Fast forward to 2024, maybe even like into 2023, when folks first started hearing about, this is before Taraji P. Henson went on stage at whatever award show that was to make an announcement about Project 2025. But it was before that, it was before that, I heard about Project 2025. One of the podcasts I was listening to did some episode about it, and I was really curious. I got really curious, and then more people started talking about Project 2025. And before the Taraji P. Henson moment, but after Project 2025 was published, somewhere in there, I got tired of hearing about Project 2025, and I noticed that the people talking about Project 2025 were most certainly Democrats, and it just seemed counterproductive to me. The thing I kept saying to myself is, I don't understand it. I don't get why, instead of harping on Project 2025, y'all just don't write Power 2026. That's what I would do. Get a year ahead and do a positive, just do a flip on the motive, right? And the sentiment. Because, the sentiment in the Heritage Foundation documents, it does have like a dun 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 dun. Like it has that like Star Wars Darth Vader feel to it. But imagine if there was a document that had more of a gonna keep on trying till I reach my highest ground. Like in my mind, we needed a higher ground soundtrack. And to me, that was Power 2026, the blueprint for America waiting to be written. And I was just talking about it day in and day out. And when I say talking, to whom was I speaking? To moi. And in what format, context was I speaking to myself? Well, in the ChatGPT app. I was doing speech to text transcriptions. I was recording voice memos, then taking the transcript and inputting them into ChatGPT. I was using the voice chat function in ChatGPT and just downloading my thoughts without any clear instruction even. But they became these iterative canvases where I was writing. I was writing as speaking. And more, Power 2026 started to look like a compendium of ideas. And I was like, well, if Power 2026 is it's the mirror image document of Project 2025, that's like has a white paper vibe to it. There needs to be a magazine-y vibe, like a listicle, magazine-y vibe that still transmits, gonna keep on trying till I reach my highest ground. Ba-bum. And that, my friends, is where 101 Ideas for America came from. Now, colloquially, I call it 101 Free Ideas for America, FREE, free. And my dear friend Abina cautioned me against saying it was free because she said, because you know how America does, especially with black people. You give them something for free, even if you don't give it to them for free, they're going to extract it and they're going to exploit it. So we're not giving anybody anything for free, is what she says. And she was right. She's right. She's right. She's right. And also, yes, and, right, as they teach you in stand up. And also, Seth Godin, who is a marketing guru, genius person, thought leader, has one of his first publications, if not his first publication, is about the idea virus. And it's essentially about giving things away, giving ideas away. Now, I'm going to take a trip around a few songs here to explain the give it away ethos. First, let's give homage to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. What I got, you got to give it to your mama. What I got, you got to give it to your papa. What I got, you got to something, something, something. Do a little dance and you drink a little water. What I got, you got to get it, put it in you. Right, okay. Then you have another song by, do it with the feeling, don't stop, continue. Like you just give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Give it away, give it away, give it away now, right? That's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Then we have the song by Abby Lincoln, called Throw It Away. Throw it away, throw it away. Give your love, live your life each and every day. And keep your hand wide open. Let the sun shine through. 'Cause you can never lose a thing if it belongs to you. Share it, give it away. Don't grasp, don't clench, don't hold. And then, of course, we have, you get a car! You get a car! You get a car! Run on, run on. Remember that theme song from the Oprah Winfrey Show? Oprah Winfrey! She is my North Star. But the give it away economy is a real thing, you know? Even looking at all of the free platforms that we have access to that aren't really free, that require user-generated content, like what I'm doing right now. And I don't know that we're always mindful about what's the game plan here. Like Shelley, Dr. Shelley's Furman, my sister from another mister, she calls it the long con, right? And she always says that as she's raising her kids, like she's in it for the long con, which is just she's playing the long game. She's playing the long game, and she's telling them what they can handle when they can handle it, but still having in mind what the next lesson or what the next milestone is. So that's really kind of that is the approach that I have been taking with 101 Ideas for America. This is an iterative list that I've been working on for at least 2.5 years. I haven't published it. I haven't written about it. It became powerful in the context of Power 2026. And Power 2026 was a powerful concept to me. Why? Because 2026 is the year of the country's, the anniversary, the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And the notion of plain people, regular people, taking pen to paper to declare their intention for themselves and for others. I'm not going to debate who it was for, because I'm going to say that, well, God. I'm going to say God. I'm going to say God, because that which we do can never compare to what God has in mind. You know, I remember when President Trump had his ear grazed in the shooting, and he gave a speech, and he said, I really do believe that I was saved by God. And I remember saying, hallelujah, because you were. Because what he renders in this country through his actions and behavior, it's not unrest, it's just all of the gaps. There are just so many gaps in rationale, in reasoning, in the way things have always been done. There's so many gaps, right? That he always talks about flood the zone, or that's what how the media describes what he does or his administration does, or Stephen, whatever the guy, what's the brother's name? What is that brother's name? The bald-headed brother, the one who is the kind of a mastermind behind the scenes. I can't think of him. He's youngish. He's young. Stephen A. Miller. I think that's his name. So whether you're talking about the machinery of Trump or the man who is Trump, there are just all the cracks. We can see all the cracks, like the Liberty Bell. And you know what? God bless the cracks. Because were it not for the cracks, where would we dig in? Where would we have access? From what would we like? We need to tether ourselves or retether ourselves to the root of what these notions, these principles, this promise, this project was really about. I truly believe with my whole heart that we are in a new founding era, and that this is midlife in America, and that we have an opportunity as what I think of as the bookend generational cohort. I think specifically of generations X, Y, Z. And I also don't mean to exclude boomers. I do believe that however we carry that bookend consciousness, I do think that it does have to be led by X, Y, and Z. I believe that there's something to that bookendness. Whether you want to say 250 is the halfway point from physical to digital, the physical person to the digital person, I believe that our digital sovereignty and personhood and being free from exploitation online, if you consider the fact that I always talk about how we have an economy that went from cotton to content, and you have Facebook, Instagram, even Amazon are these websites. They're just websites. Even to the extent that we call them platforms, they are websites. Websites that are populated by our presence, that we went along with because of the service of connection that it was offering. Then it was kind of flipped on its head. And the value, the companies were valued. Like, have you been listening to these valuation numbers for the company SpaceX, like at least $1 trillion, I think, or the valuation numbers that are being bandied around about Anthropic, that is the maker of Claude, or OpenAI, that's the maker of ChatGPT, $1 trillion. Right? These are the multi-company initial public offering trio. Like, this is the trio of companies that are going to have initial public offerings at least $1 trillion a pop. Like, that's what's being forecast. And for, when you look at OpenAI and you look at Anthropic and you think like usage has so much to do with that valuation. Here's what I know. I've done my part on the back end of ChatGPT and of Claude to render as much, to have as much control as possible over what I'm doing in those apps. But I'm not dumb. I know that I believe that I need to hurry up and exit those platforms, and or those platforms need to hurry up and, I want to say, employ me, but and because these are marketplaces, like I see a future where we are selling our goods and services. Like I'm cool with you wanting content, YouTube. I'm cool with you wanting content, whoever else, right? But I believe that because of how the algorithm works now, there isn't a human in the mix rendering, like, who's offering human editorial judgment. And so people who get to be creators, paid creators, are simply, they're gaming, right? The system. A person like me who was raised in the tradition of print magazines. This is Honey. This is not in a magazine I worked for, but a magazine I loved when it was around. This is print. There are names here on the masthead. Let me read them to you. Where are the editorial names? Now, at the time, Michaela Angela Davis was the editor-in-chief of Honey, but lest we forget the founders of Honey, Kierna Mayo, and, I'm forgetting the other sister's name. I'm so sorry. Michaela Angela Davis became the editor-in-chief later. This just happens to be the one that I have in hand. But there are names. Tasha Turner, I know her. Kenya Hunt, I know her. And these are brilliant people, brilliant minds, still in the heyday of life. These are people who got to get on, like were put on when they were in their 20s, their 30s, right? They're in their 40s, their 50s, maybe their 60s right now, but they're still vibrant. And they have editorial judgment. I think that there's a marketplace where more humans can begin shaping and shopping stories, through lines, marketplaces where consumers like you, like me, who are citizens, can begin, like, let me curate some of my existing content, what I already have, that I've already been capturing, in service of you, OpenAI, or you, Sam Altman, because guess what? Sam Altman, you have an entire idea on 101 Ideas for America. I have a blueprint for what I think you need to be doing with your career, starting now. And step 1 is announce your departure from OpenAI. Spoiler alert, there's more to come though. I have an idea for you, Dario Amade, and your lovely sister. You keep mourning the need for contribution. You keep mourning this backlash and negative effect, right? That we're all experiencing about AI. But no one, nowhere are you leveraging people like me, people like so many other people I know. And now, look, my bad. This is the whole reason why I'm live streaming. Because how you gonna leverage me if I'm not putting myself out there? 101 Ideas for America is like put myself out there. I'm gonna live stream for 24 hours on July 4th, 2026, on the day of V250th, because I know if the 250th year of this independent country passes without my having made my stake, my claim, my put my hand, my fist on the table to say, wait a minute, I'm declaring a time of interdependence. I believe that there is a capitalist way forward that involves interdependence. When it comes to the digital world is what I'm talking about. And right now, we are all, like, it's all kind of conflated, but really we have to solve for it. We have to solve for algorithms. We have to solve for the fact that we keep allowing them to be black boxes. We have to solve for the fact that, like, how are we acting like algorithms weren't programmed by people? Like, these are people. Like, and the more we keep going along as if the emperor has clothes, we're never gonna get that. I don't. We keep going along as if the emperor has clothes, and now I understand why that is. So, I always remember that I used to watch fairy tale theater with my mom, and I remember the one about the emperor has no clothes. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, I don't understand the big deal. Because when you're watching it, you know that the emperor doesn't have any clothes. But when you're living in a world where you're like, wait, everything you're hearing it's so dissonant. Multi-trillion, like 3 companies with an initial public offering of over $1 trillion, and we have a whatever billion something whatever deficit, and so few of us are making what is like the true middle class income now, which is like, if you have the trappings of a middle class lifestyle, you have to be making about like 150 to 250 a year. Grant, like 200, 100, at least 100,000 to about $250,000 a year. That's the middle class trappings. That's this year's version of what it was to be middle class, right? If you're making the before days middle class income, you're telling yourself you're middle class, but damn it if you aren't feeling something other than. And I don't know if it's lower class. I don't know, but I do know this. Who cares what class it is? At the end of the day, we keep talking about all of these disparities and acting as if we have no recourse. And if there's one thing I believe, it's in the power of God, and it's in the power, I'm going to say, of the Holy Spirit that lives in us. And regardless of religion, background, you have to look back on this country's trajectory, and you can pinpoint these moments when everyday people said or did one or two things that one or two more everyday people caught on to, and what it looks like to positively engineer a moment like that right now. There are so many existing pathways that have been written about or spoken about when it comes to almost everything we've been talking about, and when it comes to Congress and the power of the purse, when it comes to executive power, when it comes to war powers, when it comes to the Civil Rights Act, when it comes to the Voting Rights Act. Like, there are people, like, and places and things that have already established, different pathways, the where to go now pathways. And I just think it would be helpful if more of us were to put those things together and broadcast them more often. And I know that there are a lot of creators doing that. I know that there are a lot of, but sometimes I wonder if people aren't just harping on, whatever's trending. And I've been really, one of the things I've read and heard about Toni Morrison is that the reason she wrote The Bluest Eye, which is her first novel, was because it was a book that she wanted to read. And 101 Ideas for America is it's the podcast or video series or broadcast that I've been wanting to listen to watch, to consume, to dig into. And so I'm doing it. I'm putting it on. July 4th, 2026, Saturday, 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. I'm going to be broadcasting every day between now and then, only to just get better at live streaming and broadcasting and to hopefully force myself to not do this blabbering thing each and every time. I have one faithful follower and viewer, and that is Evelyn Wren. And I am relying on you, Mommy, for your honest feedback. Just know I may not be able to employ it immediately, or you may not see its results immediately, but everything you've ever told me, I remember. Not only do I remember, but I do work really hard to prayerfully institute. So yeah, that's that. Okay, well, I did it. You did it. Da, da, da. You did it. Da, 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 da. Did it again. Did it again. Did it again. Ow! You did it. Da, 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 da. You did it. Pa, pa, la, da. Did it again. Ah, did it again. So we're gonna play. We're gonna play us out. I'm gonna see if you can hear. If I can hear. I hope there's not an echo here, but I'm going to play the Penny Wren Groove song in the transition and just, let it play. Huh? Yeah. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Penny Wren, you got this Wren. Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, no. Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, no, yeah. Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren. Oh, Penny Wren, Penny Wren. Oh,
I'm messing with the audio.
Penny Wren, oh Penny Wren, yeah, Penny Wren, oh Penny Wren, yeah, Penny Wren. Penny Wren can do it. Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, yes she can, yes she can. Penny Wren, she can do it, 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 yeah. Watch her work, watch her go, watch her work, watch her work, watch her work, watch her work. I'm Penny Wren, watch her work. I'm Penny Wren, watch me 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 work. I'm gonna work it out, yes I am. I'm gonna work it out, yes I am. I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna work it out, yes I am. I'm gonna work it out because I can. I'm gonna work it out because I'm Penny Wren, I'm Penny Wren, Penny Wren, Penny Wren, oh yeah. Penny Wren, Penny Wren.
Oh, it's hot.
Gonna work it out. Dun, 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 dun. Gonna work it out. Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna work it out.
Yeah.
Dun, dun. I got the power of Christ on my side.
Hey.
I got the living Holy Spirit inside. I got
Hey.
all the authority, all the help that I need. I'm Curtis Wren's daughter and Evelyn Wren's indeed. I'm gonna work it out, yes I am. I'm gonna work it out because I can. Watch me work, watch me work. You ain't ready for what I got to say. You ain't ready for what I'm about to do. You ain't ready for me. I'm about to work it out.